somebody comes in either now or in the next 2 years, and the whole reason we moved to this area is to suddenly take away from us. That's what I'm saying.
Thank you. Ms. Deborah James.
My name is Deborah James. I as well would have a restriction with Crab. This is my limit. I'll announce it if I need to.
What you say?
I have a restriction because of my job
Oh, yeah.
and my husband's job.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, she's also is not living this.
I will tell you that I live on the roundabout, and I will tell you that I have a small child. Every one of these zoning restrictions does impact me. When I built my house there, I was told there was never a plan for any other developments. I was told there wouldn't be, it was minimum traffic, it was just to service that and the few people that needed out on the E-way. Or the highway, excuse me. I now have 2 additional streets with 150 plus homes that now enter around on that roundabout that go right by my home. It does hamper everything I have. I chose Canyon East rather than a development in the county because I wanted the protection of zoning. I wanted to make sure I looked out my door and I didn't have a trailer park. So I chose Canyon East. That's why I chose to live there. And I have even heard my neighbors describe this neighborhood as pedestrian. Watch out when you're leaving. You put that much increased traffic in there and a bottleneck when you're trying to get out to go to work. For those of us that do live right there on that proposed roundabout, it will hamper my property values, and it will hamper the safety of all of the children involved, because almost every house on that block has a child. Everyone. And that increased traffic makes it dangerous for our children. And my concern with the lack of restrictions in the commercial area, depending on the business, it does raise crime levels. And depending on what the business is, I feel like if you want to have a commercial entity, put more restrictions on it.
Thank you.
Deborah,
Yes.
I have a follow-up. Are you opposing all 3 proposed zonings?
I am primarily opposed to a trailer park manufactured home without a restriction on the proposed down CM. I am not opposed to the homes across from the parkway. I have no opposition to the first SFS, sorry, on the bus, on the map. And I am vehemently opposed to the commercial entity without the restrictions and more protections for my neighborhood.
Thank you.
Any other questions? If y'all have any questions for any of them, we can answer questions. So,
Thank you for your time.
thank you. Mr. Danny Potter.
Little to add. I think they have done a great job collaborating on our design. Our biggest concern is if we can trust the developers to do what they say they're going to do. The next concern is on the proposed RC2. My question is, why can it not be an RC1 development? If that encompasses what is proposed to be put.
Thank you, Danny.
Danny, what's your address?
2 Clay Lane.
I have several here that said they didn't want to speak. I did have one. Miss Joanna Campbell, who said, did not wish to speak, however, I'm available for any questions. Anybody else? I know it's kind of... If not, we're going to close the public hearing. Ruth, it's us to us, so we can ask any questions of anybody that we want to ask.
I'd like to ask Ms. Campbell how she views each one of these zoning proposals.
You're asking what?
There's 3 proposals for rezoning. I'm asking what your thoughts are on each one of those for the SFB, SFS, and RC2.
Yeah, so my understanding is that the SFs are just
lot width, is my understanding. Yes.
Yeah, so I'm fine with those changes. I don't want anything commercial. I feel like, my thought is why can't we know exactly what it's gonna be before the zoning gets changed? Like, tell us what, and then get everybody's opinion on if we want that or not. I'm not okay with just a blanket, let's change the zone, and then whatever pops up, and kind of like this gentleman said, I don't think we can trust the developers, because I've heard time and time again that the developers said one thing, and then it's changed. And I just don't wanna blanket change it based on, oh, it's gonna be an office building, but they've also said none of these other roads were gonna be there, and all of a sudden, all these other roads are there. I just don't think they can be trusted. Yeah.
Can I speak to that as a developer?
Yes, you can.
When have the developers ever said there'd be another, wouldn't be any more of the other?
Well, they didn't say it to me, it was other people I've heard in the neighborhood that, especially on the Parkway, that there would never be any homes behind them, and then now all of a sudden there's acreage and lots of other roads.
The reason why, and this mask doesn't know, the reason why, there's another set road going there, the last mayor, or manager, told us that we were out of sewer and water, so we thought we were through. And so they came to us and said, we've got enough for 70 more lots, and that's why we put them in. Otherwise, we're out of sewer and water out there. But we
Well, I
have,
mean,
we
I'm
have
not,
never told anybody that there would never be enough.
I guess the builders, I don't know.
Yeah,
The builders
that's-
did not approve.
Just to address that, so I kind of put it, so we don't have a lot of backwards and forth here. Last time we had a meeting like this, and something like this come up, and they said, the developer said this, the developers said this. Come to find out, it wasn't the developers, it was the realtors that said it. And the realtors, you have to remember, they're trying to sell you what? A house. And so, and that's nothing against realtors. I have some good friends that are realtors. I'm just saying, they don't necessarily know everything's going on. Okay. Any other group?
I have a question for you, Joe. The frontage on Land 27 and RC2 parcel on the leaps and bounds, it looks like maybe 400 and 474 feet or so. So you're concerned that that is too short from the parkway to meet the access management rules for text stop to speed on the ground.
Yeah, because the gas line that runs through there, we had to go past the gas line, and part that's in the city limits, it's not far enough for us to do that and have it 425 foot from the outside edge of one drive to the outside edge of another drive.
So that gas line, you can only develop on the north, you can only build it on the north side of that parcel.
Correct.
That would give you enough space.
Well, and it's, you guys are out there, I mean, it's difficult to deal with the gas company, so we've been trying to, once we put the parkway in and got everything worked out with it, we've been trying to stay on one side or the other of the gas line, because they don't really like us crossing over it, and we've all kind of come to an agreement that that's not worth their hassles and our efforts, to put that in. So that's what I was talking about, it kind of gets divided along that line. Does that answer your question?
It does, just to clarify, so you would see it as an access easement from the traffic circle there, crossing kind of between the other two parcels, and then if you want to go SFS and SFB, you would see access coming off the circle
No, no.
and go across the.
That map does show your pipeline.
So, the pipeline comes right down the center of Annie's Parkway, and it keeps going this way. And so the access that we're proposing to this property is right here, coming across the cul-de-sac.
So tell me where, Joe, you're talking about your access coming up, I think Brandon Lane.
Yeah, it'd be right across from Brandy Lane is what we're talking about, accessing the proposed
Right across
RC2.
Brandon Lane, everybody see that, that's where you're at. You're coming in on Canyon East Parkway, and the access would be just straight across from Brandon Lane, is that correct?
That's correct.
Does that make sense to everyone?
There's a cut in the
Brandon Lane
drive.
right here.
Now, were you saying you can't build south of that?
What we're saying is there's not room to have another access off of the textile frontage road into the property because of distance requirements between drivers.
This is about what distance to here? Right here, back this.
Well, because the gas line divides it, there's not enough room on the north side of the gas line, and on the south side of the gas line, we have other plans over there that we're trying to work into, and so there's not enough room on that side either. I think it's more from the gas line to the proposed drive that we were showing for these two cul-de-sacs and house acre lot zones was, this distance from here to here is too short, and the distance from here to here is too short, and so now it's 403 along the deal to the gas line, to the center of the gas line, and it's 193 from there to where we're proposing the next drive. That's enough for one, for each of those two drives, but only another drive in between.
We say they mentioned that gas line, Kennedy's Parkway is the gas line.
Right.
So that gas line extends out approximately, looks like it lines up about right.
Correct.
So that's where he's talking about. He doesn't have enough room north of that gas line to get in there because of that 425.
That's correct.
So we're gonna use Kennedy's Parkway to get into it and make a right right there.
That's right.
I'd like to say something also. Is that okay?
Why don't you address it to us and then we'll address them, okay?
The developer said there's enough sewer and water for 70 more homes. Our water's already struggling. In the last meeting I was at, it was addressed and nothing was ever accomplished. It's my understanding the original plans are the pump station supposed to be. Now, I could be wrong. But our water out there is very horrible at certain times of the day, and there is not enough water for 70 more homes. It struggles enough as it is.
The city told us, and so we're going by what the city tells us.
I'm just saying from an everyday standpoint, water pressure is not.
Address us, please, sir.
Yes, I'm sorry. But the water
Both of
pressure,
you, please.
it's just 70 more homes. It's not possible. It's not possible for 10 more homes without a pump station or something to give us a little more pressure. That's my concern. I know everybody here agrees with me. 'Cause I
Well,
see it.
unfortunately, as P&Z, we have nothing to do with that.
Who does, Bill?
I think that's the city commission, and you go from there.
Joe, another question. We've heard today, the question as to whether or not this thing should have been RC1 as opposed to RC2. Could you enlighten us as the P&Z committee as to why RC2 was chosen instead of RC1?
There's some building dimension restrictions for the potential office building that was going to make it where we couldn't be bigger. And so that's part of why we went to RC2 in that area. And it gives us the opportunity to have, if there's some other activity besides just an office building that could be in there, like a daycare or something like that, there were things we could talk to people about. Our idea would be on 10, whatever goes in there is going to help the neighborhood. It's not going to be a detriment to the neighborhood. So that we service the neighborhood can get.
Yes.
So if what they're telling us is true, that it's not the developers that are telling us what's going to be in and out of the property, I don't understand why they think they can then control what's going to be built on that property. It has to be one way or the other. They either know everything that's going to be built on the property and can tell us, or they don't. I know we can have deed restrictions, hopefully on SFB, that prohibit mobile homes going into that area. But on RC1, with the pipeline coming in and then having other plans, I don't think their other plans should push the traffic on the community's ground.
Can I ask this question of the developers?
No, ma'am, you can ask us, and they can listen, and then we can go that way, okay?
Okay. My concern primarily, because I live up the parkway, like halfway up the parkway, truly is the traffic. And I know that this isn't a traffic thing, but I wondered if they have plans or have ideas of how the traffic flow would go, other than down the parkway or around that roundabout what would maybe be their answer for the traffic situation?
It's a good question. Joe, do y'all have an answer for that?
Well, the street's 37 foot wide enough street to handle what's kind of put in there. At least at this point, nobody proposing any kind of a gas station or something that you end up bringing in kind of extra traffic. And if we were coming outside of things, again, it's continue to be neighborhood services. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the colonies in Road. Some of that same stuff has gotten done up there around the side of those 18 homes because it gives an amenity. There's a lot of options in RC2 that don't exist in RC1. We can go back and look at some of those things and see that some of the points that they're talking about, we don't have all of that property sold to somebody. So for us to tell you exactly what's going to be there, we don't know, but we want it to be something that's going to help the neighborhood. And it fits inside of the corridor that the city is telling us that they want to see in that area is, or that they'll allow in that area is commercial. So that's why we started looking at it. It's a hard area for us to try to put residential in there that keeps backing up against the highway. So that's the quandary we get into on the edge of every development. And so in answer to your question about traffic, it's that there's going to always be times that we have to wait. We're in West Texas, we usually drive where we want, we go really quick, but when we put a bunch of people in the same spot and in the same driveway, there's a little bit of patience that has to happen. But it's not going to be somebody stepping there for 2 hours. We're just talking about step for 5 or 10 minutes at the most. You might have to wait, or you have to slow down in an area. And so that's how we proceed that. So we put that all together. There's nothing that we're proposing in there that would increase the traffic so much that nobody could ever drive by there except for this commercial development.
Just for the committee, I have the listed businesses that are allowed in RC1 and 2. I don't know if that would help the committee, but I kind of did my own approach.
Yes, please.
I think to possibly miss guide our traffic thoughts, it's not an issue of having to wait to pull out of your driveway or wait to pull out on the main drag. I've got 4 kids, one with special needs, and they're like, our neighborhood is full of kids, and you can't ride bikes on the sidewalk, you can't walk or push a stroller on the sidewalk because of the way the mailboxes got built. So the only option is to walk and ride bikes on the street. So when you have a ton of kids and families walking and riding bikes on the street, just the increase in traffic, but it's not an issue of waiting for kids, it's a safety issue with the pedestrians.
Then I've got a question for staff. Can you tell us anything about how those uses would go along with our comprehensive plan?
Absolutely. I brought up a future use map of our comprehensive plan up on the screen. As you can see, the red area extends about 500 feet each side of I-27. And that is designated for retail or light commercial. That's based off our future use plan or our comprehensive plan. The rest of the area is yellow, or it shows up as well. Is light density commercial, which is single family homes, like you guys have out there in Candies. Now the green area is designated as parks areas. And I think the reason they extend, of course, it's obvious that parkway area is a park. Now, what reason that larger area that we're talking about possibly being parking RC2 is showing parks there, I'm not sure why that came about. I think maybe one time there might have been plans for the school, correct me if I'm wrong, Joe. I think maybe where that came from. But I think the general idea, you can see, is for an area about 500 feet each side of I-27 to be looked at for commercial or retail uses. Does that answer your question, Brian?
It does, and just to follow up that too, correct me if I'm wrong, but one recommendation that came out of that, I wasn't involved in development of this plan, but there was a lot of public outreach, there was series of meetings and surveys and everything else, but one of the recommendations that came out of that was to develop to encourage the development of some nodes, some amenities, nodal development where you have some amenities adjacent to or in each neighborhood. And just wondering if this is kind of what is maybe the proposed use that would go along with the recommendation there.
It is, and as I've said before, the conference plan is not a rule to follow, but it is a guide. And two parts of that guide that I'm trying to make a point of. They have recommended that strip, that area, each side of that, needs to be zone commercial. In addition, another portion of that, like Brian mentioned, you call for nodal development, which means that areas such as Spring Canyon or Canyon East have some sort of mixed use within that development. Node means that you have several amenities within that development that allow you to exist without driving into town, without driving to Walmart. In other words, have some commercial business, things like that within that development, which I don't think I have it shown on this, but I'll put it in. But you guys probably are aware you have some RC going by 4th Avenue. Probably see some RC1 zoning at some point in time.
Yes.
Come in at that, what I call the hammerhead, where I-27 and 4th Avenue come together. So, as far as that future use plan, Brian's exactly right. It calls for both uses to allow people to have some convenience stores, office space to exist within that local subdivision, especially those ones that are what I call lollipops. They're kind of extended out from the center part of the city, so you don't have to drive into town to experience those businesses. But that's important for them. I'm glad you brought that up, because I think that the idea behind it was to add some commercial development, especially along that area. I wouldn't disagree that I think the zoning request probably extends beyond that for the RC2. Go back to that other map.
Can I ask for clarification on something that you said?
Sure.
So this was the intent of what the property was supposed to be, is that my understanding of this map that was showing us?
It is a guide that came up through. They went through a process, probably a couple of years, working on a comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan just simply goes out for community input, and as a committee, they go through the P&Z and the city commission, and they try to propose a guide as to how the city is going to move forward. And that's not only future land use, but transportation, et cetera. So it's just to help us not go out and just willy-nilly make these changes. We look back and say, okay, what was the intent? How should we guide this? What's important?
And based on your map, the intent was for it to be parks and open space. The green section that they want to make commercial was parks and open space.
Yeah, no, we disagree with that, absolutely. I don't think that's realistic at this point in time, to expect that that's what that's going to be. I think that's the reason that's put on there. Because I think at one point in time, they thought there was going to be schools or parks over there. So I can't speak exactly how, I don't recall how exactly that took place.
But that's after community input, and obviously we have quite a bit of community outreach opposed to that. And now we have even more houses that are not on your map. And don't you believe that a park or open area would be nice for the families that live in that area? Because I'm sorry to be messing up.
Without a true park guide, park location guide that we worked on and had to really come about, without having a park guide to say how much park area is appropriate for Canyon East, that's hard to answer that question. It's possible that the existing Canyon East Parkway, in addition to the park on the northern end, may meet those standards. Those standards are in place, yet we're still in the process.
Courtney,
Yes, sir.
are you opposed to all three zoning proposals?
No. I am objecting to the commercial property and the ingress egress of that said commercial property. I'm actually, if they want to do RC1, I'm not going to stand in the way of development of our community, but
question back.
What is the process of going from an RC2 to an RC1?
Thank you.
I've discussed with our city attorney, Chuck Hester's here, and I discussed that with him. So there are two ways that could possibly be moved forward with this. Of course, this agenda is set. I mean, there's no way that it could be, at this meeting, we could reverse that request from an RC1, RC2 to an RC1 at this point. However, they could be approved, and they could come back and seek a rezoning of that. Or that portion could be dropped, or P&Z could recommend approval of portions of this, in other words, a single-family zoning request, drop the RC2 request, and then come back at a later date and request an RC1 request. Okay, so those are the two options. That makes sense to everybody? Well, it's kind of muddled. They can simply, we can't simply change this midstream because all these public hearing notices are gone there. So we can't change that, but there can be approval, there can be a partial approval of this, but there can't be a approval at this meeting to change that request from RC2 to RC1, or even to change the shape of the RC2. It could be a partial approval, partial denial. In other words, approval of SFS, SFE, denial of the RC2, which could be brought back at a later date, whatever that development changes, whether that's a different shape for the RC2, an RC1 request, a different shape than an RC1 as well as a different zone request, what have you.
Joe, I do have a question, talking about RC2 and the entrance and everything. And it's because of where the gas line is that what I understand? That's the issue? Where you can't come in from the interstate from the access road?
Right. There would be enough property if we didn't have to cross the gas line to access the property on the south side. It's very expensive to cross the gas line, so there's not enough property in what we ended up with. And when we're talking about it, it was planned to have a school there when we did the master plan initially. The new school went into Spring Canyon, not over here. And so, and the city doesn't want a park that's not associated with, at least in our discussion, with another park out there. It wouldn't have been associated with the school. Normally, when we put an elementary school in, the city and the school work something out to kind of share a bigger area, and so that there's a park there. But there's nobody right now to maintain the park. And so that's why we looked back at this and said, well, what can we put in there? It doesn't fit. There's this time enough room to put some more housing in there because of the way it is and what it backs up against. And again, with the stuff that they have in the comprehensive plan, we felt like these would be things that would fit in with the neighborhood as opposed to something that it would help the neighborhood thrive as opposed to be something that would be a detriment to the neighborhood. But as we were talking over here, if it will help us go ahead and get the SFS and the SFB finalized today, the developers are willing to pull the RC2 and look at RC1 would be a better option for us. If that is more comfortable for the commission.
May I address that, Commissioner?
Yes, Courtney.
What,
just a little bit.
I'm sorry. My only concern with dropping that is that by law, only people who live within 200 feet of the adjoining property get notice. So if we approve the RCV and the SFB and SFS, I don't get notice anymore. The builder gets notice because the builder now has the property right next within 200 feet of that new zoning request.
I would encourage you to two things. Okay? Watch your public hearing notices within the Canyon News classifieds, but even more so, watch our agenda packets on our city website or the P&Z agenda, so you can see when that will take place. Okay? Everybody's welcome to respond in any form. They can mail those letters to myself. You're always welcome to come to these public hearings. We love having folks come out and talk to you. These are fantastic. I can tell you every time I've sat and talked to P&Z, it's just me. That's not good. That's not the way this should work. It's fantastic.
I had a question I have a question for Ken, since you've already spoken. How do you support or oppose all three zonings?
I oppose all three.
All three?
Completely, yeah.
Okay.
I just don't feel like others have said, if it was concrete, this is what's happening, but I feel like it's gonna go to the highest bidder, obviously. And I feel like, it's not in our best interest. I feel like, even as they were talking just now about moving things, it was about what can we do. What I'm hearing is, it's cheaper for us to do this, so we're gonna do this, and you guys can deal with the fallout. Sorry, there's gonna be more traffic came in, but after we're done building, we're out of here. That's what I heard. And we did not get maps in our things that were mailed to us. That was mentioned earlier about the original map that was up here, not this one, but the other one. And we had to go seek those, I had to print them off, and not show them. So, I just wanted to address that.
They all went out in those letters. I can't speak to it if we didn't miss one or two, but I went back and verified that
Okay.
those did go out in the letters we mailed to let the people that do it.
That's, you did get one, Courtney?
I did not get that. I
You did not?
the other night. I was very weak, did not see that.
We received the letter the request to zone change, we received that letter, but we didn't receive the map. We didn't receive that.
Questions? Even more?
Sure, I do have a question where, in terms of if it hadn't been really brought up yet. The last I heard was that TxDOT Aldous State was trying to do away with two-way frontage roads. And I know it's probably a big issue in a lot of cities. I know close to home, Plainview, because there was two-way frontage roads in front of Walmart and Chili's and McDonald's and gas stations and everything else. So they fought really, really hard to try to not get those to be converted to one way. Ended up not be able to get past, and not be able to get an exception or anything to that, and try to build a bunch of backage roads, build some new roads to provide access to it. I'm concerned with really any, not just for commercial or anything at all, but just if that point, if that parkway is a big access point. I know when I go that neighborhood, I'm going to a place where I use the front road kind of the wrong way. A way that I wouldn't be able to go, that if things go the way that they're going in the rest of the state, eventually that's going to be one way, and we're going to have issues with access for anything, it's not just this, but it's something we're considering.
It's already changed a lot. I've been around long enough. I remember when it used to be access road going out to Happy State Bank Stadium now. I've been around too long. Used to be two-way going out that way until they started having so many collisions and stuff that they had to change it. What it is now. Any other? Don't have any other questions?
Sorry, I do have one more for Danny.
Huh?
I do have
Okay.
one more for Danny. On the single-family village, really the main, it's setbacks, lot size, that's really all, and also allowing one.
Okay. It's smaller lot sizes, it allows down to 45-foot wide lots, which we got proposing at this point 55-foot wide lots. The next step up is 60 foot. We have the zoning ordinance in the works, and not that this is passed, this is beyond the staff's approval to approve, but we've got a draft ordinance in the works that will allow a larger variety of lot size. One of those would be what we're going to call SF5, which would allow a 50-foot wide lot size, which would be this SFB. However, would not allow the manufactured home if any consolation, what I expect to see happen when that does pass, is that zone will convert from SFB to SF5. Barring any grandfather situation, we can't keep playing other words, or mobile home or place at that point in time, there would be no grandfather without that exception. That would have to convert over to something in the future. I expect this to be 6 months to a year refix. And I think that would then replace this SFB problem that keeps rearing its ugly head. And just change that to a more appropriate zone. Allow those narrow lot size, but it's not a high density, what I call high density. Multi-family duplex townhouse. It would still be low density, single family home, just a slightly narrower lot size without the manufactured home possibility like what we're concerned about today. Did I wander off? Thank you.
No, you didn't. Only just one more clarification. There's not a way for the P&Z or the city council to, ultimately be a city council. The city council couldn't approve something as SFD, but with the stipulation that there would be no mobile homes. Chuck, they couldn't do that.
No, I mean, the summary use chart is going to control what land uses are involved. So, I mean, the only way that could be controlled or agreed to would be if there were and you can't assign a zoning classification that's not been requested to the landowner. Okay, you can accept or reject. You cannot assign a zoning classification that's not been requested by the landowner. The only way that could be negotiated would be in the context of plan development. You might hear from Danny on that.
Or a zoning change, exactly right. It's going to take, in order for that to take place for that SFB, at this point in time, without allow manufactured home to take a zoning change, or have to be requested from another zoning category that doesn't allow those.
When do you anticipate passing SF5?
When?
You said you were working on a new zone classification that didn't include mobile homes. When do you anticipate that coming into effect?
I'd hope to see it in the next 6 months to a year. The draft is taking place with work with the consultant, Freeze and Nichols, which helped us through the comprehensive plan. That's been in its final draft form for some time. What we're doing is we're working on subdivision ordinance that we're very close to finishing up, so we like to present those all together because they kind of go hand in hand. That is, I would call that 90% done. We have some development standards for that subdivision ordinance that we're trying to work through, and that's in the engineer's hands, so I believe it all engineers. But once we get through that point, then I think we'll be ready to move forward. So I'm estimating 6 months to a year. I don't think it'll be longer than that.
So theoretically, the commission could wait on the SFV or V until the 5 is available.
Well, I don't know if the developers want to wait 5 months, 6 months to a year to move
Well,
forward.
I'm not really worried about that.
Ma'am, I'm going to tell you, as a developer,
I don't think it's open right
I'm going to give you my response. As a developer, I promise you, I own all the way to Concord King there. I am not going to put trailer parks in there. They tried to put one over there on Hudson Road. Nobody fought that any more than I did because I had 700 acres right on the road. And I'm going to put trailer houses was the last thing this man came in. I swear to you, man. And I promise you, that's the last thing I'm going to do is fucking ruin the property that I own so much of. And I promise you, I would condemn anybody that lives in a trailer house. If that's all they can afford, you know what? As long as they keep it nice, I'm all for them. But I promise you, they're going to be mine. And most of those lots are already pre-sold. You know, just because it's going to be a little smaller, they're probably 2-story square footage out of what's going to be. But I'm just telling you, I can tell you, I've heard mobile homes in here all night, and I promise you, there's going to be mobile homes in there.
Two questions, maybe one clarification. Danny, the SFD, I was Picking up some, it only allowed one story. Table, 4, page 48, 137.
It's one story maximum.
Yes, that might require variance.
Hey, Bill, and once he sells it, he doesn't have control of what goes there, right? So they could put a trailer house there. Once he sells it, right?
Probably so, yes.
Well, I promise you, man. I do, so I have another question for you, so, we talked a little bit, potentially in the future, with the Zaves and not liquor lots for another 7 days, a lot of, there's only about us to, as a developer, would you see, you doing something that's gonna allow real trailer houses there, how would it impact the value of those lots that you would sell?
We are not doing that, but we do city water. That's just a thought, that's fine.
Right, so if it did happen, you think that would lower your potential, it would be. You maybe you get a lower value, but you sell those for less if there was a real trailer house, it'd be not the best use, so.
We could do that.
So that's, I have a question.
I mean, if that's what somebody want to do, is sign some papers or own something, I'm on board, but I guarantee you, but there ain't gonna be any trailer houses out there.
Joe, is there something you want to add?
You're asking that question, as we help these guys put stuff together to develop lots, the value of the lot and the value of the house are tied together. You can't just get a loan for a $200,000 lot and build a $20,000 house on it. It just doesn't work that way. Nobody's going to, so usually it's between 15 to 25% of the value of the lot. I mean, the lot is that much of the value of the home. And they like the 15% more. So when you're talking about that, if we put a trailer house on there, the value of the lot becomes something that's much more, unless somebody's just going out and paying cash for the lot and putting a trailer on it. And so it doesn't, it's not the desire of our, and the intent is for us to deed restrict those out, so that they wouldn't be allowed in this development, even though it's allowed by zoning. So in those ways, we would try to be able to keep that, again, we all live here. We all want that to continue to be a nice place for us to live. We're not trying to damage Canyon East with what we're proposing to do.
Question on deed restriction. On a deed restriction, because there's deed restrictions in the neighborhood where I live, somebody in that city has no control over that, correct?
City does not enforce deed restrictions. Private deed restrictions are enforced by the landowners.
So it would take a complaint by somebody out there to go to the owner for that to be taken care of. Is that
Potentially,
correct?
it would take a civil suit, correct, to sue as a judge. The city does not assume responsibility for enforcing private deed restrictions.
Can I just say that
Yes.
the reason I think the mobile home situation has been brought up so much, it's not that we're grasping out of thin air, it's that just a half mile down the road, there is the mobile home park across Fort. So I think that's what everybody's making sure, that RV park situation that's happening there stays there and doesn't kind of fall this way. It's not that.
Yes, ma'am.
I would like to address this because that's a question of me. I am not in support of the SSD. And I believe Mr. Coleman and I believe the developers, but once it's sold, it's out of their hands. And we're left as a neighborhood to then come back and sue civilly, and that's just, and it's too late at that point as well. So I would like to retract that.
Mr. Shane, it's my understanding that currently in Canyon East, we already have existing lots with built, with improvements on them further down Canyon East that are similar in type and size and formation to what's being proposed here on CF or SFB, right?
That's correct, the ones that are just
So
west of the park.
it's not as though these lots are gonna stand out to anything that's already currently in Canyon East, is that correct?
That's correct, it's gonna be something that complements Canyon East.
Similar to what's existing now?
Correct.
That's across from the park now.
Right.
Similar to like what I would call a zero lot, or what you might find a garden home going in there, or something to that effect. Is that right, Joe?
Yes, and that's one of the things that, when we were talking about what to do, as we tied around that area when the school decided to go over there, is something that would give it some other options, but not decrease the value of the neighborhood, which not everybody wants a big one.
Right.
This gives somebody that opportunity to have something that's nice and in that neighborhood, but doesn't have to take care of all of us.
Any other questions? Motions? Oh, yeah. That's right, thank you. At this point, I'm going to close the public hearing. And we'll discuss some more if we need to. We're not through yet. Go ahead.
I was asking Jeremy, I mean, I know that he's in the neighborhood, and I was just asking his opinion as to what he sees as of the proposal.
My biggest concern right now is the commercial. I think in RC1 would be quite better.
I guess the thing I'm having a hard time, even if you lower it down to an RC1, aren't you still going to have the issue with the
That's what I tried to
entrance?
set out. I think the traffic flow is the hardest part, because if there's no way to get in off of the highway, you are gonna have people going through the neighborhood, even if it is a medical office or daycare. So that's gonna drive up on the traffic. But I think we also need to look at this.
Yeah, well, I agree with that. Yeah,
The homes. I think they're gonna be what's already out there, it's across from the park, I think it's what's gonna work together. I don't think they're gonna do it. That's just my opinion. But the traffic flow from the commercial.
Maybe on the outline over there, what can be done with that? Just open area, or can you have access from north side to south side across it?
Whatever you do that to supply with one of those requirements. They have, I can tell you, I couldn't speak today to what those are. If you cross that pipeline, they have very strict guidelines as far as construction, building some sort of structure across that. A person specifically asked for some plans if they can do local calculations of whatever run across their pipeline. Won't have any possibility of damage that pipeline. They're very restricted, like I tell you that.
Not very clear.
what's on the plan? That's not.
The options we would have at this point, essentially accept the rezoning as it is, reject it all as it is, or we could piecemeal each of the three, accept portions of it or reject.
I think you could accept the entire request or deny entire request as described. In other words, the SFS, the SFB, or the RC1 can be thrown out or accepted. Those just simply couldn't be changed to another zoning or change the number of lots or the legal system of the RC2.
At this present time.
This present time.
Joe, didn't you say a while ago, I mean, they're willing to, the RC is
they, like you said, they've got some people that want to buy the houses in the SFB and SFS, and they'd sure like to get that approved today. So if the commission please them to read RC2 after they can approve that today, they're good with that.
I was doing some numbers.
Okay. Yes.
Where SFB is right now, you take that total footage from one end to another, you have about 14 lots, I think is what we show before you get to that little turn time. And part of that is because those lots are split up on 55 foot with the one at the far south end being 60. Just thinking out loud here, y'all. So if this was to go SFS, similar to what we have on the other side, Parkway, essentially the developer would lose one lot. And so you would have all of them 60 foot, with one of them being a 55 foot. Now, Danny, my question to that would be, would that still have to be zone SFB? Because you would have one lot on that strip that would be below 60 foot in width?
It would have to, all those lots would have to meet requirements, minimum requirements.
Okay. So we'd have to have a whole new plat.
There's also a difference in setbacks too between SFS and SFB, right?
It would allow for that though.
Do what?
The lot size will allow for it. Because I think it's 125 feet, so.
On the width, what's our setback on SFS?
25.
25 on the side.
25 in the front, so the side is 5.
And 5 on the SFB also.
Correct. Yes. The front yard is 20 on SFB, 25 on SFB.
Maybe the middle ground here is telling the developer that we could look at doing approving the SFS as it is, opposing the RC2, and opposing SFB for the purpose of maybe looking at this coming back to us as an SFS.
You want to make that motion?
Yes.
Okay.
I'd like to motion that we approve the developer's request for the proposal of an SFS along the Canyon East Parkway. I'd also oppose the proposal for an SFB and RC2 with consideration for extended lot width to conform to an SFS along Street CM.
Okay. Got a motion? Got a second? Roger, yes. Any more discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? There is none. Motion carries. Now, having to do that, do we still approve the plat for the SF?
Well, you can't really approve the plat at this point. Tell me if I'm wrong, Judge. You can't really approve the plat at this point because we have to approve the zoning for the entire plat. They can't approve the 4-foot plat.
The zoning recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission will have to go to the City Commission for action this month.
We can't move forward with the plat.
And by the way, for everybody here, just to let you know, that was what we approved. This goes to the City Commission, I believe, a week from today at 4:30.
That will be completely Zoom, Joe, is that correct?
Yes,
So it'll be
Well-
soon,
we'll find out tomorrow.
but you will be able to offer your opinion then on this meeting.
If they go to the city website, they can see the agenda and find out whether that's going to be in person or Zoom.
Correct, that's decided at this time.
I will tell you, been in doing this long enough that city commission could do something completely different from what we did. They've done it before. And so just to let you know that this is what we did. City commission will be next Monday at 4:30, and they could possibly do something else. Alrighty?
Chuck, should we just simply eliminate our next item, flag consideration at this point?
Yes, I would pass out number 5.
Okay. So we'll pass that to number 5. Then if there's nothing else, we are adjourned. We appreciate everybody being here today. Appreciate your time. Appreciate your input. Have a good rest of the day.